Apologies if you hear my heater blowing in the background. It's cold and I'm dying. This is my first scripted video, so let's see how that goes. The transcript is in the description if you'd prefer to read the review from here on. Devon Kay and the Solutions are a sort of dance punk, post-punk fusion with influence from prog rock, old British rock, folk punk, and classic punk. That sounds like a lot on the table, and it kind of is. This album is a balancing act in taking parts from different genres and working them together. I generally like paying attention to music like this, though it's almost always more a miss than a hit, and can often be a flaming wreck of terrible, unbearable trash. But when it's good, it can be really good and something fresh. So to break the suspense, overall, I found this album a lot of fun, so let's break it down and see if any of this intrigues you. We'll skip the intro track because it's a short intro track. The real opening track here, make no mistake, is kind of the embodiment of the whole album in one song. The melody is catchy, repetitive, fun, and big, like actually impressively effective, has a staying power that I feel a lot of pop-oriented music doesn't have, at least not enough. There's fun brass, fun percussion, kudos for an interesting, effective instrumental break. They're also surprisingly rare. So overall, the album starts with a strong song in and of itself. Fresh gets kind of modern poppy really quickly, with the repetition and method to its harmony, but it morphs to a more solid dance punk song with surprisingly great but simple guitar line through it, and the next song, Yes I Can't, is a classic Brit pop song, which is a huge guilty pleasure of mine, with some good brass thrown in on top of that, and it kind of scratches a pop punk itch on the side, though that's more in vibe than any specific sound. A Lover's Trip is an acoustic-y, guitar-driven prog rock song with the blues thing going. It's an overdone sound, but I love songs like this in general, and they execute it well. The instrumentals are good, not great, but good, and stronger than the rest of the album, and the melody is effective, and the song grows in a mostly formulaic but very effective way, making it overall satisfying. Old Scent is a break into grungy punk, but still with a dancey pop melody, so all in all it feels more like a classic rock song than punk directly. Relocating is a break to folk punk. It has an acoustic guitar, brass, harmony, and a country folk-fed melody. It's a really corny sound, but I also like this shit for better or worse. And ironically, like usual, the folk influence makes this for a better country song than a lot of country music. Good Pill Hunting is an homage to 80s punk and surf punk, with synth and brass on top of that. It feels like something Fat Wreck Chords would put out, and I love it. Broad Shoulders is a song that goes back to the prog rock influence earlier and the folk influence. It's a blend of the two with an even more country chorus to the point that it starts to be a little aggressively different. The lyrics and guitar saved it for me, and though I might have wanted to dislike it after a few listens, it ended up being one of my favorite songs, and it's funny how that tends to work. The Great American Runaround is an homage to punk and 90s pop punk, except for the chorus, which is pure British pop cheese, with blaring brass and obnoxious repetition, and again, it's so frickin' corny and overboard, but I love the vibe going, and it's by far my favorite song on the album. 1 out of 2 is the most modern song on the album. It has hyper polish going on, and while the melody is folky again, it sounds so clean and polished and modern that even though I like what it's going for, it kind of falls flat of the mark for me. It would be a dud, but the guitar is so set on being good that it keeps it alive for me. And the last song, Temporary Displacement, feels the most directly dance punk. If you just want dance punk, here you go. It's a decent closer. As I went through the tracks, you probably noticed this album uses some tropes and tricks that a lot of pretentious music does, as in music that tries so hard to be new and different and taken seriously that it becomes unrelatable or hard to approach. I wanted to give this album a review because it impressed me how it was able to flirt with ideas and tropes and tactics that are so often mishandled, but in the end it utilized them mostly well and made for a relatable and enjoyable, if familiar-sounding, listen. This album doesn't do much wrong, and it does nothing awfully. Of course, if you don't like these stranger genres and prefer more straight-up punk or music in established genre, this album probably is not the one to start with to change your mind, though it is worth a try after you knock out a few more mandatory listens. I showed my bias a bit here, but even if I didn't love the genres that they're going for, and music that likes to mix them like this, I think the instrumentals are solid enough to back it up and give this music a quality regardless of overly specific tastes. So even if you're not a big fan of the genres mentioned here, you might at least get some enjoyment out of listening to decent instrumentation. Overall, I enjoyed this album. While it is derivative and while it really plays with fire sometimes with what it tries to do, I think it pulled it off rather well. I give it a B, though I can see it sliding to a B- or B+ over time. I hope you check out the album, and I hope you enjoy it. You'll find relative links in the description below. And if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like this video, give it a thumbs down, and I hope I get to rant to you in a future music video.